Konnichiwa! Welcome to Japanatron. My name's Dave Pavlina. Japanatron is a podcast about Japan, life in Japan, and Japanese culture. Today's topic, what we doing? It's called the Kyoto Incident. Now, this is going to be a story. I got a story for you. And I got to give you a little warning. It's quite disgusting. So if you're not going to be into that, then turn this off right now. All right. I was asked by a best friend of mine to kind of repeat this story. I've told it many times. Not many times, but I've told it on my blog. I've wrote it and I've written it. And I told it on another podcast probably a few years ago. Anyways, let's begin. This is the Kyoto Incident. Okay. Many years ago, in a land far away known as Japan, I was teaching English out in Tottori at Ion, and in my lessons, I often put stuff that I liked, my own interests and hobbies and whatnot, into the lessons because I thought it made it more interesting, at least for me, because I'm selfish that way. And I always mentioned two big reasons I came to Japan in the first place, which is when I was a child, I was obsessed with two Japanese things. Number one was Nintendo, and number two was ninjas. I fucking love ninjas, and I love Nintendo. I adored these two things, which is kind of what planted the seeds for this Japan obsession of mine. So, ninjas, they were awesome. I loved everything about ninjas because I was a weak little dude, and I still kind of am, scrawny little dude. And I loved, I wasn't into, the big muscular superheroes, like the Arnold Schwarzeneggers. I was really into ninjas because they were kind of small and scrawny too, but they, just kicked everybody's ass, no problem. It's kind of why I loved them. I loved the ninja, the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Anything with ninja, it was just all about the stealth and about it wasn't just brute force that they use. They would just use stealth and they just blow dart your ass. You didn't even know what the fuck hit you, and you're just dead. You're just buried. Because ninjas just kicked your ass, dude. So that's why I love Japan. So I always mention that in classes. So after one class, a really genki, a really nice, a really great student came up to me. His name was Susumu. He was the type of guy who loved adventure. Really interesting guy. He biked. He rode his bike from Tottori to Osaka and stuff. Just really wild guy. Just would hop on a bike and just go. He was the type of very spontaneous who would just go somewhere. And he loved adventure. And he's like, so, I hear you love ninjas. You're always talking about them in class. Why don't I take you out to, I'll show you the traditional ninja villages, the real deal, the places where real ninjas resided, and lived and trained and everything. So he did this. He made this happen. And he put together this trip to the ninja villages. And it was me, Susumu, of course, he was driving, and two female students, Yoko and Shinobu, if I remember correctly. So it was the four of us. Okay, so we went out to these ninja villages. And in case you're interested in this, in case you two are obsessed with ninjas, like I am, they were called Igamura and Kogamura. Igamura, if I remember correctly, is in Mie Prefecture, and Kogamura is in Shiga Prefecture. It was quite a drive, but not overly inconvenient from Tottori Prefecture. It was just a few prefectures over. It wasn't across the whole country. So we made a day trip out of it. We got up really early and headed out there and did the ninja villages, the ninja museums. They had a ninja show where people were fighting. It was kind of geared for the kids, but it was pretty entertaining nonetheless. It was almost like pro wrestling, but it was really, really entertaining. They also had the ninja house at both of these with the secret passages and the booby traps and lots of cool stuff. I was checking it out. Anyways, the ninja villages were a blast, and if you have any kind of interest in ninjas, I can't recommend those enough. If you can make it out there, if you can even find these places, you'd probably, like I did, you'd probably need a Japanese friend, a student, or somebody Japanese who knows knows how to look that up. I don't know. You might Google it, and find an English website or something, or maybe your Japanese is really good. So, anyways, I had a blast at the ninja villages. Okay, so here's kind of where the story. It's almost like this is kind of where the story begins. The Kyoto Incident. This is why it's called the Kyoto Incident. It's kind of early evening. We're on our way back to Tottori. The long drive back. And we have to kind of drive through. We could kind of drive through Kyoto, which is a nice place to drive through. On our way home back to Tottori, just the way the highways were or whatever. I don't know the exact reason. And so we're all like, "Hey, let's stop for dinner in Kyoto." That was not my idea. It was probably Susumu's idea. And he had a restaurant. I mean, this guy was an adventurer, so he just knew. He's like, "I know this cool restaurant in Kyoto. Let's do it." He was the most awesome tour guide, and I love this guy. Really, really great guy. And so if you know Susumu, so Susumu, if you're listening to this, I love you, man. Okay, so he takes us into this really nice restaurant in Kyoto. That the type where you're sitting on the floor. The tatami mat's very traditional. The waiters and waitresses are all in traditional Japanese garb, the kimonos and everything. It's like a multi-course meal. It's awesome. Okay, so there's fish and just elegant dishes. Just mouth-watering, elegant Japanese food. So we're working through this meal. There's a lot of things I had never had before. And we get to kind of like the end, the dessert. And they serve this dessert called tonyu, which is kind of, I guess it's based on soy milk. It's like a creamy, very rich tofu kind of made into a dessert. Now, there's different types of tonyu. The more common one you'd probably see is in a convenience store. You drink it. It's like a soy milk. And this one was like a dessert form, almost like a pudding. And it was good. It was really good. Very rich, tofu-y, kind of a healthy, typical Japanese sweet, not like extremely, overwhelming sweetness to it. And this was my first time having it, and there was really nothing it wasn't like fish shit or something that I was eating. So it wasn't anything that was like nasty fish sperm or something like that I wasn't hesitant to eat or anything. They're just like, oh yeah, this is based on tofu. It's a really good dessert. It's served at high-end restaurants. So I gobbled it down. It was really, really good. Anyways, it had to be this. It had to be this. This tonyu, despite being a pretty small portion of a dessert, this thing gave me a bigger shitstorm. It was like the Hurricane Katrina of shitstorms. I mean, as soon as I finished it, there was just rumblings in my guts. Like a massive fucking Category 10 shitstorm was just getting conjured up in there. And I was like, oh dear God. And I don't know. I wouldn't say I have an overly sensitive digestive system. I would just say I have a noisy digestive system, which I think I inherited from my grandfather. He and I both have what I like to call kind of like a horn concerto, like the brass section of a symphony orchestra. That pam, 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 just a very talkative, noisy asshole. That's kind of the way my digestive system is. Very gassy. It's almost more talkative than the mouth on my face. I like to say, hey, maybe I have an extra set of lungs in my ass cheeks. They're just always breathing and talking and flapping my ass cheeks. But in this case, it was a wicked Category 10 shitstorm. Category 11, maybe. Okay, and the winds were picking up. Right then and there in the restaurant, I excused myself politely. I went to the very nice and clean and immaculate restroom, and I shat my brains out right there. I mean, it was like literally 2 to 5 minutes after finishing the Tonyu dessert. And I was like, oh, problem solved. And good thing problem solved, because we had a long, like 3.5 hour drive back to Tolteri. Okay, so we finished the dinner, and we hop in the car, and that shitstorm came back in a wicked fucking way. No, it was not over. It was not over at all. Those winds picked up, and it was of Noah's Archean proportions, this wicked shitstorm. Okay, and my guts are grumbling. Okay, and we're in the car, and I'm taking deep breaths like a pregnant woman doing Lamaze, thinking, I can make it. I can fucking make it back to my apartment. I can do this. I can hold it back. I can hold back the Noah's Archean flood of liquefied shit that wants to come out of me right now. I can fucking make this. So we're on the highway, and I am battling this. My guts are fucking churning and burning. Like that. They must have heard it. I don't know. It's hard to be aware of how loud your own guts are, but in retrospect, I wasn't really thinking about other people at the time, but it had to be pretty loud, and I was holding back this flood of shit that had to come out of me, and I was kind of like sweating and taking deep breaths, and I was in the back seat, the window side, and I was just kind of like clawing at the window like a cat, with some kind of weird jungle disease. And I must have scratched like his upholstery in his car off or something. And I was just like, oh my God. And it was, the way when you're holding back that like massive diarrhea shit, and you're just like breathing, you're doing deep breaths, and it's going like in waves where the guts are like, oh, I want to get this out. And then it kind of like pulls back a little bit, and it was just going in these like waves of tremendous pain. And I was just like, and I reached my wit's end. I came to the point where I'm pouring sweat back there, taking deep breaths. I was literally a pregnant woman. And Yoko and Shinobu were like, I think this dude needs the hot towels. He needs the water, whatever pregnant women need. He's given birth. He is given birth. And there's nothing that's going to stop it. And I did not want to do it in the car. I'm not a fucking baby. I'm not going to shit my pants. I'm not going to shit my pants. So I'm like, dude, I'm going to shit my pants if I have to like withstand this anymore. So I take several deep breaths. And I'm like, I have to do this in a calm way. I have to do this as calmly as I possibly can. Susumu's driving. He's looking in the rearview mirror. He had to know. And I just say, Susumu? And he looks in the rearview mirror at me, and he just says, toilet? Just kind of shake my head as just beads of sweat are rolling down my brow. And I don't know how he does it. Like I said, he's an adventurer. He knows, he's a nomad. He knows the roads. He knows the highways. He's a human GPS. Somehow, miraculously, he finds, a rest stop area. And I am like, oh my God, I fucking love you. You have truly saved my life. Now, the most embarrassing thing about this moment is the fact that there's two girls, pretty attractive girls, I might add, in the car. Why the hell does this have to happen to me? Why did girls have to be in the car? Because if it were me and Susumu, I could have just said right in the beginning. I said, hey dude, guy to guy, I gotta take a tremendous shit right now. Can you please, find a place? It wouldn't have been a problem. But the fact that there are two girls in the car probably are that's probably the reason I was hesitating so much, and taking deep breaths and just really trying to make it. But I couldn't do 3 hours. It was way more. I was biting off way more Tonyu than I could chew. Okay, and the Tonyu, that little block of Tonyu, was kicking my ass, literally. and it had to come out. Okay, so he finds this rest stop, this rest area, and we stop there, and we all get out. Okay, I guess everyone needed a little refreshment. Okay, and it's just totally abandoned. It's pretty late at night at this point, and I was kind of curious. I'm like, oh man, how far did I make it? Did I make it 2.5 hours in? I don't know. I lost track of time. I mean, my whole sense of time, my sense of balance, my sense of life was completely phasing in and out at this moment. This diarrhea shit had truly taken over everything that was me and my essence. It had destroyed my soul at this point. So we go in the restroom, and of course Susumu goes in with me to take a piss. Okay, and there's no one else in there, completely abandoned and dead quiet. It's like the middle of the forest or something off the side of the highway. He goes in to take a piss. I go in the stall, of course. All of the stalls, Japanese style, which is a hole in the floor. You gotta squat. It's like a rectangle with a little cup in the front. Okay, now that was a funny thing, is I didn't know, is the cup supposed to go in the front or is the cup supposed to go in the back? I didn't know at this point. Now, the answer, which took me probably a good 8 years to figure out in Japan, of life in Japan, the answer is the cup is supposed to go in the front, actually. You're supposed to squat with the cup in the front, which I don't understand because I never really got good at squatting, and I still am no good at it. Because the problem I have is the pants go down like to your ankles, right? And you're kind of squatting over this rectangle. And I don't understand how you avoid pissing and shitting on your pants, okay? So what I did at this moment, and don't ask me how I did this in the urgency and panic state I was in, is I actually just removed the pants altogether. But the floor is dirty, so I leave the shoes on. So if you picture this, I'm a grown man with no pants and like a t-shirt and tennis shoes on. And that's it. Okay, just no pants at all. And luckily there was like a hook for like a bag. So I hooked my pants on there. And I took a deep breath and I said to myself, Dave, this is where it's going to happen. Okay. And I put my hand on the handle to flush because I did not want Susumu to hear the god-awful sound that was going to come out of my body. Now, let me digress for a moment. There are a few moments in a person's life where you truly see the face of God. You see the face of God in heaven staring at you. This might be like when you look into your firstborn child's eyes, as your wife has given birth. The child's eyes open, and this is like staring into the eyes of God. For me, it was this moment. I truly saw the handiwork, the good news, the good work of God, Yahweh, Allah, Zeus, whatever you want to call him. Life is good at this point. It all exited at once, of course, given how the tremendous amount of strength and power I was using to hold it back. It was a Noah's Archean flood of shit that just came out. Now, I flushed immediately like a madman, grabbing the silver handle and just flushing it down because I did not want Susumu to hear, because in that tile bathroom, it was reverberating. It was like, brah! I think I was screaming like a child going down a water slide, probably. I don't remember. Things got kind of cloudy at that point. So, probably about 10, 15 flushes. No, I'm exaggerating. 15 flushes later, it was all out. And I was pretty assured at this point, given how much time had expired up to this point, that I think it was past me. I think it was over. I think the worst of it had passed. Okay. And hey, toodles, a really good tribute, an accolade to the Japanese sewer system for dealing with that. Okay, they're probably still processing it to this day. Anyways, it took me quite a while to kind of get myself back together. I had to kind of give myself literally like some psychological counseling in that stall. Luckily, the restroom was clean. It was just the Japanese style I had to deal with. So, I kind of, whittled my pants back on and took some deep breaths, wiped, the sweat off, I got kind of cleaned myself up. Susumu at this point was waiting outside, along with the two girls, Yoko and Shinobu. They were waiting outside. And there was this odd, very odd, I cannot explain it, look that they kind of gave me. Very subtle. Japanese are very subtle. But, body language does still tell a very interesting tale. And, their body language told me a lot. And it was, holy shitballs, what the fuck did he just do in there? That is really, I think, what their look kind of told me. They covered it up the best they could. God bless them. Japanese, very polite. They did not bring this up. I did not bring it up. I probably would have brought it up if it was just me and Susumu, but it was not. It was two girls along with us, and I did not want to talk about my very talkative digestive system at that point. But they kind of had a look as well that said, is this going to happen again? Is this going to happen one more time, two more times? We still have a bit of road to cover. Fortunately for me, it did not. We made it home. I made it home. I drank a lot of water when I got home. I wasn't sick. It wasn't food poisoning. It was just explosive shit that had to come out instantly. It was kind of like, it's the kind of food that doesn't get you sick. It just gives you tremendous shits. It's like Indian food, I guess. Indian food just gives you the shits. After you finish Indian food, I love it. It's very filling, very satisfying, but then it just makes your ass explode like a fucking bomb afterwards. And it's almost a good feeling. But you have to kind of prepare for that. If you're going to have tonyu, and you have a noisy or sensitive digestive system like I do, you have to prepare for it. You have to schedule your life around that meal, that tonyu. You have to make sure you're not going to be in the car for 3 fucking hours, okay? You're going to be home. You're going to be near a clean, hopefully Western-style toilet where you can shit your brains out, okay? Now I've learned that lesson. If there's tonyu in the meal, and there's a long road trip, I will skip the tonyu. If there's tonyu and I'm going to be near a shitter, a clean, nice Western-style shitter for the next several hours, I will definitely partake in the tonyu. Okay. Made it home. Okay. And it was a good sigh of relief. I was wondering, though, I was really scared because, they're all students. I was wondering, I'm like, oh, holy shit. Pardon the pun. Are they going to tell the other students? Are they going to tell the teachers? Am I going to have like a sea of snickers? People snickering at me when I go in to teach class. That's the guy who had the crazy shits, or something. Nothing like that really transpired, but I don't know. Like I said, Japanese are very subtle, and yeah, I didn't notice anything, but maybe I was just trying to ignore it. Interesting side note, when I got home, it was really late at night. I was taking a shower, getting ready for bed, all that. There was a pretty wicked skid mark. I wouldn't even say skid mark because it was liquid. I don't know what you call that, like a brown spot in the underwear. I didn't bother saving it. I had plenty of other, pairs of Costco Champion underwear. I just threw it out. But apparently I didn't hold it back as well as I thought I did. But one good thing is it did not soak through to the pants, which is very, very important. Because if I got out of the car and I was walking, out, they dropped me off first, of course. if I was like going, otsukare-sama, thank you very much, blah, 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 after the trip in front of my apartment, and they see like a wicked brown spot right where my asshole is on the back of my pants, that would have been tons more embarrassing. But I checked the pants. This is probably the reason why I always wear dark pants anyway, because just in case, you got turtle head or some other kind of like brown spot or like a skid mark, you don't want that soaking through into the pants. That's why I always wear brown pants, just in case it matches it. So it kind of hides it, or, dark pants, brown preferred, of course. So yeah, point being, threw the underwear out, and no, there was not the spot into the pants, because that would have been really fucked up. So luckily that didn't happen. Sorry, I'm kind of dragging this on. Anyways, point being, I made it home, alive, and thank you to Susumu. And a big sorry, I don't know if it's a sorry, a big otsukare-sama to Yoko and Shinobu for putting up with that. I was thinking too. I was wondering if I was farting in the car, and maybe that's how they knew too. I wasn't even aware of that. Like I said, I was in like a haze. I don't even know what was. I was in a haze, a Liberian fog, as my best friend would say. So I don't know really. I had no awareness about me. I was out of my wits. So yeah. I hope you enjoyed the story called the Kyoto Incident. Yeah, take care, and talk to you later. Hope you enjoyed this episode of Japanatron. Cheers.
Welcome to Japanatron. Japanatron, 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 Japanatron.
You have received this transmission from the Comedy Podcast Network. For more shows, visit comedypodcastnetwork.com.